a lot of people who I've been talked to, they told me like we are okay with them to coming in, but they need to deserve it.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Peter O. Estévez Show. This is your host, Peter O. Estévez. Today we have none other than Ingrid Barrera. Ingrid is actually, hello Ingrid, how are you? Welcome to the Peter O. Estévez Show.
Great, thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to not only hear your Latin Talks, which is coming up right around the corner. You're one of the featured speakers. And as a lot of our audiences know, Latin Talks is a series of talks and conversations brought by local Latin leaders where they're going to be sharing their answers and solutions to some of the challenges and adversities that one face. And Ingrid is going to be sharing her story. She's going to be doing a 15 to 18-minute talk along the side of some other incredible and powerful people. And I'm excited to hear that.
Yes, me too. I'm super excited. We are really waiting for that moment to come. And of course, sharing to our community, like what things have I done and that have been useful in my journey.
Oh, you have an incredible journey. You are currently an anchor reporter for Telemundo Houston, and you joined Telemundo Houston in 2017. Before that, you worked as a correspondent in Mexico City, Telemundo Networks from 2016 to 2017. You were nominated for 3-time Daytime Emmys and Best National Newscast, and for the coverage of presidential elections in the United States. Previously, you were an anchor for the third Mexican national network, Grupo Imagen Multimedia, where you covered notable events like Pope Francis and many others. You have also worked as a reporter and a presenter for International Information Noticiero Televisa, conducted interviews with prime ministers, ambassadors, and people in business. You obtained your bachelor's degree in communications and science from the University of Monterrey Tecnológico of Higher Education. You're also a member of the Nonviolence International Association, created to persevere the message and work of John Lennon. You spread nonviolence throughout workshops taught in more than 36 countries, providing more than 10 million children with access to education and sports. Wow, what an incredible resume. You stay pretty busy, don't you?
Yes. I just want to add that here in Telemundo Houston, I mean, very humble to say that I won 4 Lone Star Emmys too. So that's been adding to my resume too.
Well, you have an incredible resume. You know, Ingrid, you were very early on in your career. You kind of skyrocketed to the top as an anchor woman, which is the most coveted position anyone in the news and in television wants to be able, achieves to be able to accomplish. But you accomplished that very early on in your young career, but you wanted to be a correspondent. Why? What was it about being a reporter, correspondent, about being out there with the people that intrigued you to do that?
Well, I'm here at Telemundo, so I have like people coming in.
This is
and coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, yes. Like you said, like in my early years in my career, I had the opportunity to being an anchor woman since the beginning. So I always wanted to be with the people and just say, like, go out and know their stories and share them in our newscasts. But I've never had the chance, so I had to pursue it. And Telemundo Mexico was the one who opened the doors to me, and for me to just spread the word about like what was happening in our country, even though it was like violent environment back then and still is, but it was the things that like the people was experiencing. So I wanted to be with them and I wanted to share their stories with our audience too.
What is the biggest difference in being a correspondent in Mexico and being a correspondent? You know, Mexico is a city of 26 plus million people, one of the largest cities in the world, Mexico City, that is. And you're in Houston, which you're somewhere between 4.5 and 5 million people in metro areas. But what large Hispanic population? But what is the difference, not only in the people, but in the community, and more particularly in the way that you're able to?
Well, it was like, it's a big difference because in Mexico City, I mean, when I was a correspondent in Mexico, I wasn't only in Mexico City. I was spread all over the country.
Throughout the country, right?
So I had to go and cover the migration in south of Mexico, and I don't know, the border with Guatemala. And then I had to go to the northern states when, I don't know, a big Capo cartel drug lord was released from prison. So I had to go to Sinaloa, or whatever happened around the country, I had to be there. So it was like, we couldn't never go out without security, with a security person, and they weren't armed, but we needed to be with someone for our own security purposes. And it's different here, where you can just report whatever is happening in your community, and it's a local community, so you don't have to go out and be with anyone bodyguarding you. It's just like you and the people, and just have that guarantee, quote unquote, of being safe out there reporting here in the States. But in Mexico, it's super dangerous. And unfortunately, I had like a couple of friends who were killed by that violence that was after journalists back in the day.
Sure. Obviously, the cartels have a tendency of truly pursuing correspondents and reporters that are basically reporting the activity that is going on, the illicit activity taking place in the country. And it is very unfortunate. And we can now begin to see how that illicit activity has spilled over to the United States, more primarily human trafficking. Okay, we see that today under the current Biden administration, we have what they call an open border policy, and we, on a daily basis, there's literally thousands of people that are crossing the borders. Primarily, there was a report yesterday by Senator Cruz in which he showed the wristbands that many of the immigrants are wearing, and the color-coded different wristbands that the immigrants crossing, and what they signify, either what cartel crossed them over, how much money they owe to the cartel, and it's modern day slavery. Okay, modern day slavery. And I know we don't want to get into the policy making of the issues from a perspective, but what is your opinion of what's going on in the border today and the impact that will have in our country long term?
Well, I remember this study long time ago that we released here in the news. I barely remember the organization, but it was like somehow like a test where people in the border were like, yes, they knew what was happening in the border, and they were scared about like all the migration waves and all that, but they knew what was happening and that what was coming to them in El Paso, McAllen, all those northern or in states in the border. But people they were asking people in the northern states like Michigan or Chicago or like over there in Seattle, and they were asking them like, what do you think about like these migration waves? And they were like scared, like terrified, like, oh my God, we're gonna be impacted terribly, and they're coming after our jobs and our people, and they are coming here to rape our women and get our money or whatever.
Right.
So it was like this kind of mindset that they had, like in the northern states, where they don't know what is happening in the border, where the people in the border, they are really aware that they are there, they know what's happening, but they are not that scared. They are just like, okay, they are okay to come, but with what resources? We don't have enough or barely enough for the people in the States, so what are we gonna do with them? So it's difficult, right? It's a lot of people who I've been talked to, they've told me, well, we are okay with them to coming in, but they need to deserve it. And I'm like, okay, but what if they are being pursued or they're being followed by these gangs in their countries? They don't know better. They just need a better place. And they're like, well, why don't they stay in Mexico? Why do they have to come here? And I was like, it's the same. It's we are in the same world. We are brothers and sisters in this world. And I don't know if we are illegals. We are not. They don't have documents that you are like blessed to being born here in this country. But it's difficult to get into that topic because I am in favor of people being in and pursuing a better quality of life. But at the same time, a lot of people is very scared because they don't know better, and they are listening to Republicans or Democrats, and they just don't maybe investigate by themselves.
And I agree with you. This is not a political issue. This is a human issue, right? This is the case of a human issue. However, I do believe that there's that organized crime has utilized the facade of the human issue in order to be able to create another enterprise within their organizations. What I'm completely against is the human trafficking aspect of it, the prostitution of young women and young children, the abuse of them working many long hours to pay the coyote or whoever literally thousands of dollars to be able to live in this country. So, I think if there was a different type of policy, a different type of immigration policy in place where those families in need did not have to resort to seeking help from organized crime, that process would be completely different. But having said that, I'm a product of immigration. I'm with one of 13 children. I migrated to the United States at the age of 10 years old. I truly believe the United States of America continues to be one of the greatest countries in the world, giving us an opportunity to not only live in a safe and healthy environment, but opportunities to really, truly reach the American dream. And I'm a great believer of that. I am a living experience of that. I've been a benefactor of all the benefits that the country provides for all of us. However, having said all of that, I have also taken my own initiative to assure that I am a participant in my community, that I am a taxpayer citizen, that I am a productive member of my community, that I educate myself, that I evolve, that I change, that I simulate the culture in a way that culture simulates me and welcomes me as much as I welcome the culture. So I think those things are in fact important. What is your opinion in that aspect of it?
Well, actually, that's what we're trying to do here in Telemundo Houston. Because we've seen that a lot of people are coming from other countries and they don't know better. They are like, okay, we're kind of lost. So where should we begin with? And
levanta tu silla. Te estás.
Sorry.
There you go.
It's the camera that it was like falling down.
I was barely seeing your head.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
It's okay. So please continue. I'm sorry. My apologies for interrupting.
No, it's fine. It's this modern world. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at myself. So, what was I saying? So yes, that's what we're trying to do here. Just educate our people. We provide the resources for them. Like here locally, we have this amazing organization, Baker Ripley, who always help our community with their taxes, and they help them do their taxes for free. So it's like, okay, it's there. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to be a responsible citizen. You have to pursue that American dream through correct lines or the good ways to do it, not like take the side way and just say, I'm not going to do my taxes because in my country I don't have to. So I'd rather get all my money for myself.
Yeah.
But in this country, we have to follow these rules because we're not in our countries anymore. So in this country, it's better for you to, follow the rules. So that's what we are trying to do here. Just educate our community, through those resources, free resources for themselves, for their children, hi, stamps for food. It's free food for them. So they have everything for them. This country, like you said, they have like everything for our own communities and the best resources for them. So that's our main job here at Telemundo Houston, to educate the new immigrants that come to the States, at least here in Houston.
And I love that you're saying that, because I have a completely different perception of Spanish television. And perhaps is the outdated old perception that I grew up with. Okay. I remember as a young boy, 18 years old, 1 to 13 children, my parents did not simulate the American culture at all. You know, I would come home from school, the radio would be in Spanish, the television would be in Spanish, whatever local newspaper at that time was La Prensa was available to us. So it was like within the confines of our home, we had our own little country. We had our own little Mexico. The food, the language, the communications, and I'm all for that. You know, I'm very proud of who I am. I'm very proud of where I come from and what my parents have, and incredibly grateful for the opportunities that my parents, with their limited resources, provided for me. However, having said that, I also saw how they had a very difficult time assimilating the culture, and there was almost a handicap for the media and the communication, you know, for the televisions and the radio stations. You know, the programming was horrible. You know, it was nothing but junky telenovelas, pretty much like what we see on Netflix today about the Latino culture. You know, sexy Latino women with a heavy accent and drug dealers. And that's not representative of who our culture is. There's hardworking, educated men and women and children that have dreams and adventure and ambitions that they want to pursue. However, you know, I was a witness of being able to see all of that the programming, in my opinion, was horrible. It was almost like enabling people to stay rooted to there was no sense of education, no sense of community service, no sense of being able to help our communities move forward. As a matter of fact, that is one of the reasons that's how you and I met, in an effort to be able to bring forward information to the Latino community, to realize how was it that Ingrid got to the States and became a news anchor woman and was able to assimilate the culture and become successful. What challenges did she face, and how did she face it, and what were the solutions to her challenges? I think that those services, not only from a talk or a conversation perspective, but the services of providing tax services to the people, information, how to register for school, how to get your child involved in how to get FASA for your child to be able to register, to be able to go to college, how to fill out the paperwork, because the reality is that a lot of the people, a lot of the immigrants that do come to this country, okay, are people that are uneducated, for the large majority of them, that come from very, very poor backgrounds. I know I was one of those. My father had a 3rd grade education. My mother had a 6th grade education. There were good people, but they were illiterate. You know, they were illiterate in many ways. And I think that not to bring up Trump's statement during his presidential campaigning, but we do get a lot of people that come from a country because they're unable to make it in their own country. Okay, so you know, let me just kind of cite some statistics based on the 2020 census. You know, there are 62.1 million Hispanics in the U.S. Okay, it is estimated that by 2060 there will be 111 million people in the U.S. Okay. It is also reported that 17% of the Latinos live in the poverty line here in the United States. Okay, but we contribute over $6.1 trillion to the U.S. GDP. Okay, which are incredible numbers. If we were our own country as Latinos, we would be the 8th largest economy. Okay, now there's also some very staggering numbers. 33% of the Latinos in the U.S. don't have a high school degree. Okay,
Mhm.
only speak Spanish at home, and over 50% of them in many states do not possess a driver's license. Okay,
Mhm.
all of those, in my opinion, Ingrid, are barriers to exiting poverty, illiteracy, and dysfunction.
Mhm.
Okay, in your opinion, what is it that we can do as a community to change that, to curve that, to tip the point?
Well, in that GDP, it's here in the States, but we contribute to our own country's GDP too. So it's like we are
Absolutely.
spreading the good things, right, over our countries. But I totally agree with you. It's a barrier, definitely, but a lot of them are undocumented, and the census is not reflecting everyone because this is only like the census, but a lot of people, even though we have like we work a lot to bring our community to answer the census, to open the door to the census people, they don't, and they have fear because that's what they've been told. Like if you open the door to any official of the states, they are coming at you and they're gonna deport you to your country. So they rather stay the same. They don't want to get in trouble, so they don't answer the census. So those numbers that you have are accurate, but not real. I mean, it's like the most real numbers that we have, but not everyone has answered the census. So,
Sure, there's no telling how many
unaccounted.
people are unaccounted for.
Right, right. But well, saying that, it's that. I think it's the fear that these people have for being undocumented. And I think like 3 days ago or 2 days ago, President Biden has released like this new document for undocumented people, which is just like to have the opportunity to have the benefits that the other people who have documents can get, right? Like a license, like you say, like a driver's license, or like the stamps for food, or healthcare, or access to job fairs. And with that ID, with new ID for immigrants, they can have access to those benefits. But without it, they are like in total fear and in total darkness for them. It's like I'd rather stay here at home and not move. And if I don't move and I just go to work and come back home, they're not gonna bother me. So I think that's more like the fear that we need to just tell them. And we every time like we are advertising a job fair, or like you can help your community, just say who did this crime, or just talk to Crime Stoppers. It's anonymous if they're not aware or they don't care about your status. And if you need stamps, go ahead and ask them for food stamps. They don't care about your status. But a lot of people don't believe you, right? It's like, yeah, right. They don't care about my status. And when I get there, they're going to take me and deport me. So I think it's a fear that we need to slowly but surely start telling our community that it's safe to being a good citizen. And on time, you can get your documents and more benefits if you stay in the right track, I think.
And I completely agree with you. I completely agree. I don't disagree your point. I think there's also addressing the fact that accounted numbers, that 33%, that 30%, and the 50%, those are actually accounted numbers, right? Those are actually numbers of documented residents, immigrants in the U.S., Latinos. And in my opinion, I think, a lot. I go back from my belief system, right? And these are only my opinions, not anything that should be imposed. But I truly believe that if we address the issue of the people that we know that are actively involved members of our community, they can move freely, they can contribute harder to the economy, they can contribute to the well-being of their culture, okay? And we are able to help those people, help that 33% get a high school diploma, help that 30% enrolled in learning how to speak English, get that 50% involved in adopting and getting a driver's license. I think if we begin to see those changes, okay, that I think that the perception of not only the Latino community, but I think the perception of the community at large would change how they feel about the community. When we begin to stand out as a community, as a culture in a country, because we are productive members, you know, because we are doing, give you a prime example, Ingrid. One of the reasons that I started Excelente, okay, and Latin Talks is because very early on, this staggering numbers, bother me. I would see, how is it that we contribute $6.1 trillion to the GDP, and yet, you know, there's still 17% of documented poverty. Okay, how is it that I can go to an event and I am one of the few Latinos in the room? Why is it that I can go to a Tony Robbins stage and there's going to be a whole bunch of speakers there and none of them are going to be Latinos? Why is it that on mainstream television, on corporate boards, on positions of influence and power, okay, they really make an impact in communities and in cultures? Why is it that there's so few Latinos? Okay, so I think that I in my opinion, part of what this movement is to be assured that we rise together as a culture, that we create a movement that impacts everybody. So those people that are in the sidelines hiding, and maybe rightfully so, hiding because of the fear of being deported back to their country, or because there's also a cultural element of calladita te ves más bonita, don't rock the boat, no te muevas, no digas mucho, quédate callado. I think there's a lot of those myths that fit into that role. What's your opinion about that?
Definitely, but at the same time, there are like a big mix among Latin people, because, well, I mean, Hispanic people. Because you have, like me, I came to this country when I was 27. So I didn't grow up here, and my friends were like bilingual here, but back in Mexico, it was like English, it was like for privileged people, right? And coming here, my friends are bilingual, but a lot of them are DACA. And what do you do when you have like a DACA who is like a outstanding part of the community, and they can travel and they can see the world and they can see other things but this country, because they didn't do anything wrong. It's just like their parents wanted a better life for them and they came to this country and now they are stuck here. So they are part of that community. Like you mentioned, they want to be in boards, they want to be in leadership, but at the same time, because they don't have those documents, a lot of companies, they don't like people who are in that part of the society, even though they are outstanding and they have to be like the best grades in other activities and contribute to their communities. And even then they don't let them. And it's like mind blowing, right? So it's like a very big mix, and a lot of people who are like second or third generation kids of those parents who came in here in the beginning, they are trying to just push their kids to being doctors and lawyers, and to just study and don't mind your surroundings, just study and being a good citizen. But sometimes it's just like putting the big effort in teachers or in on TV, like you say, like TV was the one who educated us back in my country. So
Sure.
And in here too, because parents, they don't know better. They just go out and work to provide to their families. But at the same time, the children are like, oh, now what? They don't have a right sex education. They don't have financial education or the right mindset to pursue bigger things. They're just stuck there where their parents told them to be. So they're like tiny moving parts of Hispanics here and there. And I don't know what would be like the best way to tell them, like, you can do it, but it's more like a policy thing again, because you can pursue scholarships and you can pursue whatever you want But at the time that you are there and you put yourself in that position, they are like, okay, you're DACA, you're not, you're an American. Okay, give me the American one. Even though everyone has the same background or better one. And for women, it's been changing, fortunately, but it's slowly changing, and we're going towards that goal. But still, it's something that it's in their mindset, or I don't know, top of their mind, like, you know what, I rather go for another person who is fully documented, even though you are a better candidate, right? So I think it's more like changing the mindset of everyone, not only Hispanic community.
I agree with you. Let's change gears a little bit. The other day when we had the pre-interview conversation, you talked about what I call the great pause, COVID. Okay. Yeah. We talked a little bit about the impact that has had on our community and the mental change that it has taken, that has given us. I called it an opportunity to reset, okay? An opportunity to evaluate, an opportunity to really, a lot of people quit their jobs and decided to start a business, okay? Many people decided that it was in their best interest to spend more time with their family, okay? So we talked about, you cited 3 or 4 areas that you noticed that people started taking care of themselves in, which was the physical, the mental, the emotional, okay, and the spiritual, which is something that a lot of my values are grounded on. So can you elaborate a little bit about that and what exactly that did for you and what did you see that is doing for the community?
And the physical one, right? Because when you have all those areas covered, you can just start thinking about what's next and what's the next level, what's the next thing I can pursue. But yeah, we saw that in our community too, because they started to stay at home like a little more, and they were like, okay, now I'm having awful habits just staying here at home, so let me change my eating habits for once, or just to be healthy. Because in the news, precisely, we were talking about like, okay, if you don't want to get COVID, you need to start running, or you need to start moving, or you need to start eating healthier and take your vitamins and just stay calm. And if you get it, to just stay relaxed or go to the hospital or get help, but you need to do it for yourself. So it was like a pause for our community to actually see what were they lacking, right, at that time. If it was like a better approach with their spiritual life, or a better approach to their physical strength, or whatever it was, to be in their best self, to share themselves with the community, and to help. Once they were like in a good shape, they could help their communities to thrive as well. That's why we saw a lot of small businesses thriving and new business opportunities to arise, and a lot of Hispanic community taking part in that matter. So yeah, I totally agree with you. If you're completely on whole yourself first, you can of course give yourself to others freely and easier, I think.
Absolutely. That goes back to the get put on the oxygen mask first before you put it on the child sitting next to you, right?
Totally.
The example that we see in the airlines every time we take a flight, I call it 5 pillars. I'm going to expand a little bit more on that because you said it, but I want to make sure that there's an emphasis for the audience. You have the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, but there's a key component to that, in my opinion, and that is the financial. And I think primarily in the Latino communities, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about, it's not something that at home you discuss with your children. You don't talk about the bills. You don't talk about the issues. It's just something that is kind of like the elephant in the room. Everybody knows it exists, and they can see it clearly, but everybody's afraid to talk about it. But I truly believe that it has been common, at least with my experience in the Latino community, after interviewing over 10,000 people, that a lot of us live for a long time in what I call a state of survival. Okay, we work to live and live to work. Okay. And we do the same thing, rinse and repeat each and every day. Go to work, come back home, watch a little TV with the family, have dinner, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But we never really live a life where we're in a state of survival. We're not able to see our life with clarity and possibilities. We're not able to. We're not able to see. We don't have time to learn. We don't have time to grow. We don't have time to evolve. And I think that when we begin to pay attention to this, the 5 pillars, as I call them, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and financial, then you're able to exit that state of survival. The world doesn't feel like it's running as fast as before. You're able to become present here, available in the now. You're able to see your life with clarity and possibilities. You're able to make better decisions, okay? Because just the physical activity does help you. It generates hormones and endorphins that are produced by the body, that stimulate it, that get us excited, that make us happy, that gives us a complete perception of our life. And we go back, and that helps the mental, that helps the emotional, that helps the spiritual. Is something that we all need as human beings. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it was a great pause, and I hope that this is an opportunity for our communities to be able to continue developing those habits and turning what I call a habit into a ritual, and a ritual into a lifestyle. And when people begin to adopt those rituals in their lives on a daily basis, that becomes a lifestyle that creates an incredible possibilities, not only for your generation, but future generations. Let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that permeate in our community that are very, very prevalent. Machismo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I don't experience it as often anymore, because I have created incredible boundaries at everything that I do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Very careful with the kind of movies I watch, the music I listen to, the content I intake, the news that I listen to, the people I follow on social media. To me, all of that is my mental, my physical, my spiritual, and my overall well-being. Okay, but let's talk about machismo. Machismo has been something that has been very prevalent in the Latino community. Okay,
Yeah.
do you still see it as an issue, especially when families come into this country?
Every time. Yes, totally. Just yesterday, I was talking to a friend who she came she came to the States when she was 15 years old. But her father came here first before the whole family would be coming here, and he was the only one who said, like, okay, your mom is not gonna work, so you just need to stay with her at home. You have to help her. And they were like, we don't have enough money, we'll see what are we gonna do, but you just stay there. In the end, they got divorced, of course, and she started to work, and she thrived by herself, and she gave that example to her daughters. But in the end, it was like that machismo who contempted her to thrive for more. And in here, the States, it's a little bit prevalent. I would say, I don't know, it was like super different doing journalism in Mexico than in here. And the things that I do, the machismo in Mexico is super prevalent, and it's there, it's in the air, in the
Yes.
news. Yes, it's in the newsrooms, with our cameramans, with everyone in Mexico. It's like that, and just like the double sense comments and the micro machismos, like we call them, where they are just trying to say, like, don't run like a girl. And it's like, excuse me, have you seen Ana Guevara, who is one of our best athletes in Mexico? She's like the best in track. It's like, what? And those micro machismos are the ones like, I come on, I'm just joking. I'm full, don't joke about that when I'm here or around. So we still listen to those things. But fortunately, I think in the States, at least where I'm at right now, which is NBC Telemundo, we have like a lot of trainings, but it's every year. Because even though we have those trainings where they tell you, like, okay, don't do these comments to your coworkers who could make them feel uncomfortable. Or sometimes it's not against your coworker itself, but if you listen to someone saying like a micromachismo, you can raise your voice and say like, hey, not to them, but to your HR department and say like, hey, this guy is talking about like how girls run or whatever,
Right.
and I don't like it. So in this country, I think that you have like this opportunity to raise your voice and just say what's making you feel uncomfortable, and there are consequences. And in Mexico, there are not. I mean, unfortunately, but here, I think our community is still in that I don't know journey of changing. But I've seen it. I've seen it a lot in our community. Yeah, those machismo.
So let's talk a little bit about, obviously other things that I used to see and witness and even at my own personal home, the physical, the sexual, the emotional abuse.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's sad, but here in Houston, we have a lot of domestic violence, but like every day, like a lot of cases where in Mexico we call it feminicidios. I don't think we have it like that crime in here, which is like a higher punishment for a feminicidio, which is like an homicide against women, just because they are women. It's just like because of that mindset that they hate women. So in here we've seen like a lot of people who just take their weapons and just shoot their wives because they are having an affair, or they don't want to be married to them any longer, or they want to take their kids or the custody, and because it's super easy here to have a weapon, well, they have weapons, and we've seen a lot of domestic violence cases, and sadly a lot of them ends in homicide, or suicide, homicide, which is they kill the
Right. And
women
then they commit.
and then kill them, commit
Yeah.
suicide. So it's a problem, definitely. In the abuse at home, it's awful, and during the pandemic it was worse because the whole family was in the same household, and they are not used to that. But when they were like all together, and the dad not having a job and just drinking the whole day and just speaking awfully to their wives and to their kids, and just beating them up. So it was awful. The cases arise a lot, and I guess we need better policies on that regard, because it was nothing that police could do. It was just like, okay, everything okay, all right, well, please just like separate homes, or I'm gonna put your wife in another place, or your kids to social services. But that's not the solution, right? It needs to come within. So we need better policies on that matter. In our community, it was bad, and African American too. Minorities, every minorities were the ones who suffered the most during the pandemic in that matter.
Is that a mental health issue or is that an education issue?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess both, because sometimes when you are like in the same household in a pandemic and you don't know what's going on, and you're in a different country, maybe you're undocumented, or you don't know the language, or you don't know what's going to happen to you and your family, and you're just drinking the whole day, or you don't care anymore, well, then the mental issues start coming at you. But at the same time, it's that they don't know better. They saw that with their parents and their parents of their parents, and it's like a
cycle.
A cycle, yeah. So it needs to end with this generation.
Absolutely, and that's where I wanted to get. That's what I want to get. I truly believe that we have a generational opportunity to break the cycles of dysfunction, poverty, and illiteracy, primarily by bringing awareness to those. Because a lot of times it took me getting out of the environment that I grew up in to understand that there was a completely different world. Okay. And unfortunately, a lot of people may never have that opportunity. Okay. Right. But there is an opportunity for everybody if we begin to look for it, if we begin to seek it, if we begin to immerse ourselves and understand that the life is about constant learning, it's about constant growing, it's about constant evolution. And I don't think that we have had a better teacher than nature. Nature is always changing and evolving, and we see different ways from heat to warm to cold to snow to thunder to wind to everything. And that's really, in my opinion, the way that we need to begin to change ourselves. And I think that in primarily in Black and Brown communities that are marginalized, we continue to see these issues because there's not really conversation taking place. You know, you have a young boy or a young girl at home, the young boy begins to believe that it's acceptable to be disrespectful to the woman, to your mother, to your sister, okay, who are the first women figures in your life. You begin to see, so if it's acceptable to be disrespectful to your mother or to your sister, then it must be acceptable to be disrespectful to your wife, okay, or to your girlfriend, okay, or to a girl you're trying to court, or to a complete stranger, okay. And you know, but I also believe that all of these things could be can be superseded. We can overcome those challenges, but it's a matter of information and education. We need to continuously be involved in a process of learning. And I think that we are living in the greatest times of our generation. Okay, we have more access to information than our parents ever did. You know, within a week, we get over 100,000 sound bites of information, which the information that we get today would have taken our parents or our grandparents or many other generations before us their entire lifetime to hear that amount of information. And we have access to that. It is being able to learn how to decipher that information. How to, you know, you want to really take care of yourself. You want to be able to address the physical, the mental, the emotional, okay, the financial. You want to exit that state of survival. Then you need to make some changes in your life. You need to be, you know, you need to realize that whatever's taking place at your household, it's not acceptable. Okay. And if you're not able to talk about it there, then you need to find a way of being able to extract yourself from that situation. You need to become knowledgeable and learn and see that there's a greater world out there and greater opportunities out there, that you do not have to continue the cycles of dysfunction, poverty, and literacy, that you can break them. But it takes a lot of sacrifice, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of effort. Now, having said all of that, what is it that as a community we can continue to do this in order to begin that change, to break those cycles, and to truly make an impact?
I would say expose yourself to the out there, to the outer world. Not only content yourself in your household, which is just one of my coworkers and a really good friend of mine. He used to be a worker in the field, on the fields, like with picking the strawberries.
Or strawberries, yes.
Exactly.
Believe it or not, I did that at the age of 8 years old.
Yes, him as well.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's amazing how you guys came from there to this successful life that you have right now, and him as well. And I truly admire him for that, because he didn't let that to
define him.
Right. Yeah. To get what he wanted. And he exposed himself to a different community, which is Houston, with a different language. And he came to this country, to this city, to study, to go to college. And now he's one of the most respected journalists here in Houston. So it's like, oh my God, how did he do that? And I'm sure if you want to talk to him in another time, he have like amazing stories to share. But that's like how amazed me that he never let anything that happened in his past to let him, or to put him in a different position than his peers. It was difficult. He suffered a lot of bullying, and he was just putting himself out there. And he's always like you just say yes, and then you'll figure it out, right?
Absolutely.
So that will be one of them. And of course, continue learning and growing and just expose yourself with no fear. And of course, if you have like a different status, just ask to lawyers. There are a lot of lawyers who are able to give you advice for free. And just like try to ask and try to see what could you do in your inner circle to just outside your circle and just be there and expose yourself to the different cultures and hear this.
I love that. I love that. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. I understand for our audience that this is a little bit different type of conversation, but I wanted to interview Ingrid because she's one of the keynote speakers at our upcoming event in Houston, Latin Talks. She, alongside Stephanie and Dr. Armando Orduña, and
Natalia Castillo,
Natalia Castillo,
and Stephanie,
and Stephanie Jaques. You know, an incredible lineup of speakers that are going to be at Latin Talks Houston. The web page and the link to that page would be available in the show notes. I wanted to have this conversation because the reality is that these are not common conversations. They don't happen every day. We have a tendency as human beings to shy away from controversial issues, from issues that make us feel uncomfortable, from things that heighten who we are. Okay, but we cannot discover change if we don't take action. We cannot begin to break those cycles of dysfunction, poverty, and despair if we don't take action. If we don't look outside of our environment, we already know where we at. That is a comfort zone, and 99% of the time that we stay in the comfort zone, not because it's comfortable, but rather because it's known. Okay. I think we have a generational opportunity to break the cycles. I think we have a moral obligation to do so. And I am grateful to you, Ingrid, for allowing me to have this conversation with you, for being part of the Latin Talks Houston, and for your contribution to the community at large. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Ingrid.
No, thank you, Peter, for thinking about me and just give me the opportunity to talk to our audience. And in September, when we have our Latin Talks, I'm going to be like very prepared, and I'm super nervous because I'm used to be the one who interview people, so I'm not used to being interviewed. But of course, it's going to be great, and thank you so much for doing this for our community as well.
Well, thank you so much. You know what? I was nervous to interview you. You know, you interview presidents and ambassadors and prime ministers, and here I am trying to keep up with you. Ingrid, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I look forward to seeing you at Latin Talks Houston, September 17, at the Hilton Hotel on Post Oak Boulevard. All details will be available in the show notes. Please register. The event is completely free. I encourage you to invite your friends, family, and neighbors. Thank you so much, and we will see you there.
Thank you. Bye.
¿Qué te pareció?
Ay, mucho estrés. No,
¿Por
muy
qué?
bien, gracias. I don't know. I'm not used to this.
Is it because the interview was in English, or just because of you being interviewed, being on the other side?
Yeah, I think both things. And I'm here with my coworkers, and I'm like, I don't know. They are always encouraging me, and just like, yeah.
You're in your element. You're in your space. You get what I'm saying? You're at work. So I think it's great. And I will take you up on that. I want you to introduce me to this young man that you were talking about that is a reporter. I would love to meet him.
Yes.
I would love to interview him for the podcast. I love stories like that. I love stories.
He's right here. He's right here. Do you want to see him? Or
sure, absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Antoine.
Hi.
Oh, ¿cómo estás? Mucho gusto.
Muy bien, mucho gusto. ¿Cómo estás, Peter?
Muy bien. Qué gusto conocerte. Platica maravillas, Ingrid, de ti.
Ay, gracias. Yo creo que me quiere un poquito. Le caigo bien.
In English.
Yeah.
Un poquito mucho.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Now listen, she told me a little bit about your background story. I admire that very much.
Thanks.
I'm one of 13 children, migrated to the States at the age of 10 years old. Picked apples and oranges, oranges in Florida, apples in Illinois, and
Yes.
And here we are today. So at some point, I would love to learn more about your story.
Great.
I would love to share it in the podcast.
That
So
would be very nice. Yes.
if you can have Ingrid send me your
Yeah.
details, I would love to connect with you.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's nice
you.
to talk to somebody who have something in common.
Absolutely. I'm sure we have more than that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Gracias.
Alrighty.
Sí.
No, gracias a ti. Mil gracias y bonito día.
Igualmente, que estés bien. Saludos.